Good evening. My name is Kimberly McCoy, Project Director for Fresno Building Healthy Communities, and welcome to the Fresno4All Mayoral Candidate Forum. The Fresno, stop. The Fresno4All Coalition is comprised of community and faith-based organizations, including Fresno Building Healthy Communities, Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, Faith in the Valley, the Council on American Islamic Relations, Central Valley, and the Jakara Movement. The Fresno4All Coalition seeks to proclaim a new vision for Fresno and the Central Valley based on economic, racial, and environmental justice. For the last year, the Fresno4All Coalition has engaged with thousands of Fresnans from all corners of the community through relational listening sessions to seek solutions and inspire hope that we can create a city and a valley that works for everyone. First, we would like to thank the congregation of Saint James, I cannot say this word, Episcopal. I'm sorry, thank you, you guys said it for me, thank you. Cathedral for providing us with an amazing venue. Thank you for your support. Tonight, we want to hear from you all. At the door, you have received a 3x5 card. Please use these cards to submit your questions to the candidates. If you have questions, volunteers in the white VOTA t-shirts, can you guys raise your hands, please? They will come around and collect them. Just raise your hand. You can submit your questions on the cards until 6:45. We will be starting off tonight's forum with the presentation on the Voters' Choice Act. Please welcome Luis Silva Huerta from Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. No, I need a little bit more energy. Good evening, everyone. Great, that's more beautiful. Look at these faces. So as my colleague Kimberly mentioned, right, there's the new Voters' Choice Act. I want to know from this room, make some noise if you've heard about the Voters' Choice Act. Make some noise. All right. I like to see that. So here in Fresno County, this will be the first election in which the Voters' Choice Act is being implemented. What does that mean? That means we'll have more ways and more days to cast our ballots in Fresno County, which is pretty amazing for the 450,000+ registered voters in Fresno County. And so within this, you have three options, right? Three options. Mail it, just like regular mail, right? No postage necessary. You could drop it at any of the 43 secure ballot drop boxes located throughout Fresno County. And then lastly, you could visit any voter center in Fresno County. How does this differ from the system prior? Where before you could only go on a certain day at certain times to a certain location. Now you could visit any of the 53 vote centers in Fresno County. So I'd like you to repeat it with me. Mail it, drop it, visit. Mail it, drop it, visit. Good work, everyone. And like I said, any of those are located throughout the city of Fresno. And please, if you have any questions on the Voters' Choice Act, over here in the resource area, we will have volunteers ready to share information, accurate information on the Voters' Choice Act and what you can do. What does this mean? The vote centers, there will be 10 that open as of February 22nd. So that's in, 2 weeks? 2 Saturdays from now. And the remaining 43 will be open from February 29th. All will be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then, of course, on Election Day, March 3rd, Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020, they will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you may ask, Luis, what can you do at these vote centers? What makes them so special? Well, you could register to vote the same day and vote that same day. Because this is a federal election, you will need a photo ID and you will need one piece of mail, something that proves your address. You could also change your party preference then and there and vote. And then thirdly, you could replace the ballot. Your dog ate it. Maybe your child wrote all over it, right? Thought it was a little coloring book. But the thing is, again, you can receive a replacement ballot then and there. And then, of course, lastly, if you need assistance in another language other than English, every vote center will have a Spanish speaker, and county is ensuring that there's culturally specific languages provided depending on the vote center. So again, you want to help us? We are more than welcoming to canvassers, so we're always welcoming volunteers, so please feel free, sign up over here at our resource table, or if you're interested, please email us at fresno4all@gmail.com. And so with that, I will like to reintroduce my colleague Kimberly.
Thank you, Luis, for that very important presentation on the Voters' Choice Act. Here are some key points to take away. All registered voters should have received their ballot in the mail. All you have to do is fill it out, drop it in the mail, postage free, or drop it inside or take it to one of the vote centers and drop it off. Those are the key points to remember. Loud. Like this? Okay. Before we welcome the candidates to the stage, we'd like to remind you all of a few things. This is a nonpartisan event. This is a forum for you all to learn more about each candidate and allow them to share their vision if they were mayor. We are in a place of worship. We kindly ask everyone here today to conduct themselves with decorum. Please, no signs, no interruptions, no shouting. 3, please refrain from applause after each answer. We will have plenty of time for applause at the end of the forum. With that being said, let's get started. I would like to introduce our moderator for the evening. Dr. Jennifer Randles is a chair and associate professor in the Sociology Department at California State University, Fresno. Her teaching and research focuses on family, children, and social policy. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Jennifer Randles.
Hello and welcome. How does that sound? Can those in the back, how well can you hear me? Great, okay. Well, thank you all for coming together this evening so that we can hear the policy proposals from several of our mayoral candidates. At this time, I would like to invite the 5 who are here to come join me on the stage, please. We're going to begin by asking each candidate to offer a 1-minute opening statement. So I am going to ask, can we get Mr. Harris a little bit more water, please? I think his cup is right there. Sorry. Mr. Harris, we'll start with you. Thank you for being here.
I'd like to say good evening to each and every one that is here. I'd like to apologize for my voice right now. Come down with something, but I'm pushing myself today to be here. An important matter. I'm from West Fresno, born and raised on the Golden West Side. I'm assistant pastor at New Life and Light Church of God in West Fresno, and I'm also an activist in the community, and it's pretty much who I am.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Jans.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Jans. I live here in the city of Fresno with my wife and newborn daughter. We are a dedicated family to this community. I currently work and serve as a deputy district attorney at the Fresno County DA's office, I work in the violent crimes unit. My wife is a small business owner. She has a mental health clinic here in the city, providing a desperately needed service to our community. I'm in this race because, like most of you, I know that Fresno needs a change. And so I'm in this race to make sure that we fight for that single mother who's working multiple jobs, that we work to help our homeless neighbors who are struggling every day to find a place to stay and food to eat. I'm in this race to give hope to the young people of South Fresno and all over this town. I'm in this race for the right reasons, and I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jans. Next, we'd like to hear from Mr. Jefferson.
Hi, I'm Brian Jefferson, Brian Eugene Jefferson. Currently homeless, an ex-felon. Know what it's like to be without employment, to be denied employment time and time again, to give up hope for finding employment, and knows what it's like to be homeless for several years straight, 8 years exactly straight, the last 8 years. And so I've been a a community organizer and an advocate on behalf of the homeless community, and now founder and CEO of several nonprofits that is organized on behalf of the homeless community, using the homeless community to better our situations without looking forward to the hope of those that are in elected seats in offices to help us. So I look forward to running this campaign in order to be elected so that I can restore power back to the hands of the people.
Thank you, Mr. Jefferson. Next, we have Mr. Renteria. This is a 1-minute opening statement.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Richard B. Renteria. The B stands for Briano, B-R-I-A-N-O. This is my third attempt at being mayor of the city of Fresno. I was a write-in candidate, getting my feet wet in 2012. I was a candidate in 2016. The questions that you're going to ask tonight are going to be the same questions that have been asked since 2008. My name is Richard B. Renteria. I'm ready to take on the challenge that faces the city of Fresno. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renteria. Mr. Wildstar.
All right, microphone check. How do I sound? Hello, everyone. My name is Nickolas Wildstar. Thank you very much for being here. I am a musician, and I'm also a longtime civil rights activist for about over a decade now. I'm also a two-time candidate for governor of California. I ran in 2014 and then ran again in 2018 and was the endorsed candidate by the Libertarian Party of California. Also a father of a newborn five-month-old with my wife, and we are new here to Fresno, and we moved here for a fresh start. And I believe that the majority of the people here would like a fresh start for the city as well. So I ask you all to find out more about me by visiting my website, wildstar2020.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wildstar. So I'm going to ask the candidates 6 questions. These were among questions that were provided to the candidates before tonight's forum. The first question concerns housing. It's projected here on the screen. And if any of the candidates at any point need me to repeat the question, I'm happy to do that. So Fresno is the second fastest rising rent area in California, and the lowest income renters spend an estimated 73% of their household income on rent. As mayor, what would you do to keep renters in their homes? Mr. Harris, let's start with you, please.
Well, I feel it's important to provide a legal team for renters here in Fresno to those landlords who feel that it's important that they can strong-arm folks that's in housing. There's a lot of evictions that goes on, and I feel that it's important that we have some type of system in place that will be able to help those who are less fortunate and do not have the legal finances to fight a landlord when it comes to housing.
Thank you. Mr. Jans?
You know, in my time traveling this community and talking to voters and doing the numerous town halls, knocking on doors, this is an important issue for our community. And right now, we have slumlords who are operating right now in this city without any accountability. And we have laws on the books to protect tenants from these slumlords. And I've been a very vocal proponent for going after these people. I've been such a vocal proponent that a special interest group here that represents many slumlords have put in $50,000 into this race to defeat me because I'm speaking up about the issue. And they know that if I were to be elected mayor, that they're in trouble. I've been very clear about the fact that I'm not going to take any money from these slumlords, from developers who have basically controlled our politics for an entire generation, and they're scared. And so we need to make sure that we come together as a community and to continue to elect people not only to the mayor's office, but to city council that are going to hold these people accountable. Last but not least, we need to make sure that we have a police chief in place that is actually going to enforce these laws that are already on the books. And so one of the most important decisions that the next mayor is going to make is to select a police chief. And so we need to make sure that we have a police chief that is accountable to the voters and the people of this community. We need a police chief that is going to do what's best for his department and not run to every camera and microphone at his disposal. And so we need a chief that's going to do this job, and we need to make sure that we also work with our friends in Sacramento to make sure that we have support in terms of resources that come to our community. We need to make it absolutely clear that Fresno is open to business when it comes to affordable housing.
Mr. Jefferson?
Thank you. For a start, I mean, the people need to be furthermore educated, I feel like, throughout the city, you know, by the city officials, and know that they really have the city officials' support behind them to crack down on slumlords, to crack down on renters that are raising the rates without you know, adequate services to the facilities to which we're living and dwelling in. And we also need to furthermore, one thing as a homeless individual, one thing that bothers me the most is all of these fundings and programs that continue to do the same thing, sponsor the same people and programs, and for 40 plus, 70 plus years to still watch our homeless numbers grow. So when funding runs out, this is the number one thing you always hear. Well, funding ran out. Oh, well, you know, the funding's up. So I'm tired of, you know, people taking advantage of funded programs and utilizing them, you know, to the point to where they milk all the money out, and then they're ready to kick people out on the streets once the funding is gone. We need something real solid. When we put a person in housing, we want them to really have a secure sense of security and stability, not to feel comfortable for a minute until the funding runs out and then they're back out where they just came from.
Thank you. Mr. Renteria.
Please repeat the question.
Absolutely. I'll repeat the last part of it. As mayor, what would you do to keep renters in their homes?
As mayor, to keep renters in their home. That's the question. May I ask the question? How many renters are in this building? Raise your hand. If you're a renter, this is a question about renting. This isn't a question about a homeowner. This is renting. Thank you. Thank you very much. It starts at the top. It starts at City Hall. It starts in the mayor's office. We can sit here and talk about what we're going to do, I've been doing this too long. Listen, I've heard every answer, but for the last 3 times I've been running for mayor, I've seen 0 results. I've seen pockets get filled with bonus money from a bankruptcy that was displayed to us and shared with us that our city was going to go south. Things like that cause rent control problems because people, when they think they can get away with cheating and stealing from the people who live in the city, their neighbors, the landlords have to go home and live in a home also. Bottom line is there's a way to make this all work for everybody. But the answer is not going to be right now, and I'm not going to give that answer because as a mayor, I will get together with every group that's caused the problem, and we're going to find out how to resolve the problem without dividing, without name-calling, without pointing fingers. We're all Fresnans. We're here to win together, not to be separated anymore. I don't wear a red hat. I don't wear a blue hat. I've made enough money to be a Republican, and I know what it's like to be a Democrat. So please, no more promises. Let's get some action going. You need a leader? You're looking at him right now. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wildstar?
Hello, hello. All right, there we go. So, since there are many renters here, including myself, what we don't realize as renters is the majority of those costs that we are actually paying for are costs to build. So what I would like to do and what I'm offering to do is incentivize more development of residential properties, whether it be single-family homes or apartment buildings. But if we reduce the amount of cost for developers, if it's costing them tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to build those properties, then of course it's going to be expensive for us to rent them or lease them. So if we eliminate those costs altogether, as crazy as that may sound, eliminating taxes will actually encourage more people to build homes. And I also feel like, of course, the rent control, again, with the laws that have been passed by our state officials, we need a mayor that's going to be standing up against Gavin Newsom and those state laws that have caused homeowners to be in that pinch to where they feel like they're either wanting to move to a different city or different state or maybe facing eviction altogether. So to provide more protection for renters, we definitely need to be listening to members of the community and their concerns, as well as strengthening the relationship between those landlords and the renters.
Thank you very much. As we go into the second question, can we just be mindful of the mics? I know it's hard to gauge, but I think there's some people having difficulty hearing in the back, so translators as well. So the second question concerns mobility and transportation. As mayor, how will you spend local and state transportation dollars? Mr. Jans, let's begin with you.
This is a debate that the City Council is having right now. There are SB 1 dollars out there that are going to be designated for our roads. And so the conversation now is, where is this money going to go? There is an effort out there to evenly divide the money up between each and every City Council district. I think that is the wrong approach. If you live in South Fresno, you know that the roads down there have been ignored for 10, 20, 30 years. And so we know where the need is greatest. And so as mayor, I would make sure that the funds go to the places in our community that have been forgotten and that have been left behind. Another reason why I don't take money from developers, because if you do, you have to do their bidding. And so there's a candidate in this race that has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from developers, and he's owned by them. And so we know that if he gets into the mayor's office, that those transportation dollars aren't going to be split up equitably in places where we know the need is greatest. And so for me, we need to also talk about mass transportation. We need to move our existing city fleet from a petroleum-based system over to an electric system. We can do much to get people off of our streets. I'm also a big supporter of high-speed rail. I think if we implement high-speed rail here in our community, we're going to be taking many cars off of our freeways, and we know that it's really good for our environment as well. And if we do it and we do it right, we can create jobs while we're at it.
Mr. Jefferson?
Can everyone hear me okay? Can you hear me now? In the back? Okay. As outlined in a package that I put together called the Jefferson Initiatives, it goes into details as to my intentions as the next mayor of Fresno to alternative transportation methods, which would do away with more, pollutants and give incentives and initiatives that support electric transit, incentives for those that ride bicycles, more bicycle lots. I mean, I can't stress enough how many people I know on a regular basis that lose their bicycles, when they go to the grocery store, when they go to school or work. There's many other options and opportunities out there that could be broadly utilized and implemented, throughout the city. And having places to safely lock a bicycle would drastically help. Having incentives in place, would drastically help promote, us to do the right thing and make the right choices for our environment's sake and for our budgets. So I'm looking for ways to keep more money in people's pockets, the common people's pockets, and less money coming to the city, in the sense of, fees and just cost, ongoing costs that the people are paying out, and to be shifted around the city and government, agents time and time again that we can't account for. So those are my ideals, for transportation, and those are things that I will be implementing, and I'm looking forward to getting the Jefferson initiatives out there for you all.
Mr. Renteria?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes. As mayor, how will you spend local and state transportation dollars?
It starts with fiscal management. Not fiscal mismanagement. These are not dollars so everybody can get their hands on and say, I'm going to use it for this and that. Those dollars are designed for public transportation. People can tell you about the roads in Fresno. Your alignment is out of shape every time you drive down any city street, not just South Fresno, even in the north side. I was in the construction business. I know about paving. I know about what a pothole looks like. I know what it takes to repair the damages that are done to our city. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to show you that it starts with fiscal management. It starts at the top. When you get those kind of dollars, you use them to benefit the public, not your pocketbook. Who rides the bus here, please? Raise your hand. Anybody in here ride the bus? I ride the bus. I ride the bus. I ride Fresno Fax Transit as much as I can. I'm an avid bike rider. I'm here to stop the pollution. I'm here to help support Fresno. I ride the bus. I drove the bus in 76 and 77. I was retired 40 years like a friend of mine did to get all the benefits. But I chose to go in directions and do different things, a way that could come back and help the city of Fresno. I don't play games. I'm not here to
Thank you. And before we go to Mr. Wildstar, I think we're still having a bit of difficulty with the mic, so I think it's best if we have some space, about 4 inches, but also, distance, it's not working. Okay. I think our translators are having some difficulty catching every word. And
Check, check, check. Can you hear me now? All right. Would you mind repeating the question one more time?
Absolutely. As mayor, how will you spend local and state transportation dollars?
I wouldn't. Mr. Renteria is right. It starts first with fiscal responsibility. And the state money that we'll be receiving is our money, our tax dollars taken away from us. This high-speed rail that's already been built that's going to nowhere, they're asking now, a report came out today that the state officials are asking for another $1 billion from us to finish that. I say we reject that and we cut the red tape that prevents, again, that development by free market enterprise. You have businesses that would be happy to build that without any money coming out of taxpayers' pockets. Right now you have Virgin, who actually, they have an airline as well. They are building a high-speed rail in Las Vegas to California. So we can attract people like Virgin or businesses like Virgin or Tesla. They are also developing a Hyperloop in Nevada. This technology exists, and it again will enable more public transportation usage that's high technology. So if we could, again, get rid of the bureaucratic red tape that's preventing development of a high-speed rail, a Hyperloop, a maglev train, we have opportunities to, again, attract that business here in Fresno, and I believe the people of Fresno would be able to benefit of that. On my website, wildstar2020.com, I actually talk about my Fresno First initiative, where I speak about creating this public transportation system. Believe it or not, you have companies like Domino's Pizza who will fix your roads for free. No tax dollars out of your pocket. You can Google it, people. I'm not lying up here. So Domino's Pizza will pave your roads, fix your potholes for free. No taxpayers' money coming out of your pocket. And that's what we want.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand that the way the country is going right now, is to get away from the gas vehicles. It's important right now to redirect those monies back to the roads. If you go into West Fresno right now, drive down Jensen Avenue with a brand new car, about time you get to Walnut, your shocks are just torn up. I think the quality of our roads right now has a lot to do with the quality of driving a car. So I think it's very important that we redirect our money back to the streets so that our streets will be better for all of us in the community.
Thank you all for those answers. Our third question concerns environmental justice. So the Fresno Madera metropolitan area is graded an F by the American Lung Association for air quality, and approximately 1 in 5 Fresno residents have asthma. As mayor, what will you do to improve air quality and public health? Mr. Jefferson, let's begin with you.
Thank you. For one, again, directing it back to the Jefferson initiatives, as far as our air quality and transportation, that's 1 and 2 the same. Construction, you know, like any major metropolitan city around the country, I mean, whenever builders are building, we need more incentives and more initiatives pressing on these builders to add more trees, to give back to our environment is what I'm getting at. Give back to our environment immediately. I mean, if you're going to build an apartment complex, I mean, you should show us that you're making so many efforts to, one, give back to the environment, planting trees, bushes, shrubs, and then you should also be considering going with solar as opposed to relying on PG&E and electricity. You should be establishing generator systems, so that way we don't have to worry about constant power outages or surges, power surges, and things like this. That would definitely help. What was the question?
What would you do to improve air quality and public health?
Yeah, that definitely directly affects our environment. Transportation, building, builders giving back to the environment, reducing our EPA output. I mean, we're living in a valley. We have to realize that we're already plagued with valley fever. You know, I mean, we got so many things just hovering over this valley right here. I mean, the number one thing we got to do is make sure people aren't taking advantage of the city of Fresno. When we allow 90%, the major majority of homeowners, the renters that rent here in the city of Fresno don't live here in the city of Fresno. You know, so I mean, we got to take that into account. How much do they care about the city of Fresno? We have a lot of outside influences here in Fresno. So we need to get rid of outside influences. That's another thing that's been outlined.
Thank you. Mr. Renteria?
Could you please repeat the question?
Sure thing. As mayor, what will you do to improve air quality and public health in Fresno?
That's a tough question when you're in line at the local Starbucks, right? Or you're getting your burger, or whatever you are, keeping your car idling. I've already indicated that I'm a bike rider. Lead by example. Lead by example is the leadership quality that I will show you. We need public transportation to cut down pollution. We need to say no to the drive-thrus. It doesn't hurt to get out of your car and walk, even if you have to walk to the store. Pollution is not something for us old people to worry about. The pollution is about the young generation that's going to suffer, as she indicated. As mayor, we will have EBS, Emergency Broadcasting System, that will notify, just like they do everything else, that it's a smog day. Keep the children in the classroom. I don't care how great your team is, how many dollars makes you a winner. If your children will suffer in 10 years from today, the responsibility falls on the choices you make today. Because in 10 years, if you didn't make those right choices, your children will pay the price.
Mr. Wildstar?
Check, check. Can you guys hear me out there? No? Still can't hear in the back? Check, check, check. Check, check. All right. There we go. So I have to agree with Mr. Renteria again. We definitely have to take more responsibility for our impact here on our planet, especially if we want it to be around for our children. And I feel like what's happening right now is a calling by our planet, by our Creator, to let us know that we must make those changes right now. So what I'm offering to do is, since I'm an outsider, I have a lot of ideas that I would like to bring here to the people of Fresno. And one of those is to start creating more harmonic businesses that are in tune with nature and shifting away from a service-based economy to a resource-based economy. This is actually where we're using our resources from the planet to actually provide the economy that we will be benefiting from. One way that we could reduce the amount of impacts on our landfills is by taking those tires and cans and bottles and building homes. They're called earth ships. You can Google them again. They're called earth ships, and I would like to start building these earth ships here in Fresno. That would again reduce the amount of trash that we're having in our landfills and also build these self-sustainable homes that we could then make available to our homeless community if need be. This can be temporary housing for them as well, but with regards to those businesses that are here and polluting our air, they definitely should be fined to oblivion if need be, and if they don't change things, then they should be banned altogether. And as mayor, that's exactly what I'll be doing. As an outsider, I don't have any friends in here in the city, whether they be in a specific industry or in the city department. So if you want somebody that is definitely going to speak up for you and defend your rights and liberties, that would be me.
So we're still having a little bit of difficulty picking up the mic sound with the live streaming. So I think a good rule of thumb is a finger distance between the mic. And I know some of the mics are better than others. So Mr. Harris, about a finger distance between your the mic in your mouth if you can.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, absolutely. As mayor, what will you do to improve air quality and public health?
First of all, we have to understand right now, even in Southwest Fresno, we're dealing with a plant called Darling. It's been there over 60-something years. I'm 49 years old. My grandmother just died 2 months ago at 85 years old. She fought Darling 85 years while she was here. Now I'm fighting it right now. We had Jim Patterson as a mayor. We had Alan Autry. We had Swearington. The place is operating without a CUP, conditional use permit. How come no one in the city cares about those in West Fresno that's dying right now with a 20-year lifespan less than those living in North Fresno? Why is it that the quality of life in our community is zero? You wouldn't let that plant go on in North Fresno by Woodward Park, so why is it being allowed to exist in West Fresno? So you're looking at a dying man right now. I'm dying right now because I live next to the plant. So the problem is that you have politicians who are in cahoots taking money from Harris Ranch, Darling, putting it in their campaigns to keep their business going. We have the Air Pollution Board is political. We need grassroots people on the air quality board. City of Fresno code enforcement can't do it. Cargill is in the county, and our people out there are still dying on North Avenue and Martin Luther King. So this whole thing right now in Fresno is just a mess. And it's about time that we have a mayor that's going to stand up, call a spade like it is, and care about the quality of life of people.
Mr. Jans?
You know, I spent Sunday afternoon with Keyshawn White when he was installing air monitors in downtown Fresno. And I bring him up because we have so many great people in our community right now, and this is a young person of color, who is doing amazing things without the support of local government, really taking over from where there's been lack of leadership. And so we need to continue to support people like Keyshawn who are doing great things in terms of air quality for us. You know, a couple weeks ago, we had a very bad air quality day, and there were students that were kept inside in North Fresno, while students in South Fresno were allowed to go outside and play on a very dangerous day. And so that can't happen anymore. And Reverend Harris is 100% right. The people who are pushing back against moving these factories out of our communities are people that are being funded by special interest groups, by corporations, and by developers. And so we need to make sure that we do have a mayor that's going to push back on these people and not be beholden to them, but be beholden to you and to the community.
Thank you all for those answers. The fourth question involves economic development. So nearly 45% of Fresno's workforce is struggling, and 35,000 residents are unemployed. How will you create economic opportunities that provide family-sustaining wages for all residents and allow them to achieve upward financial mobility? Mr. Renteria, let's begin with you.
Not the way it's been going on since 2008. We're in the 21st century. There's new ideas and new products coming through us that's been banned for years. Hello. Anyway. Can you hear me back there, please? Because I can barely. Okay, thank you. All right. There's new ideas and new products that are on the market right now, and City Hall has been stumbling about it. And the product is called cannabis. I've done my research. I've sent Joe Montana is broadcasting it all over the place. The industry, our agriculture industry is gone. We don't have grapes. We're not. The new industry is cannabis. It's not about the consumption and going around getting high. We have enough alcoholics that nobody has stopped selling on every corner. Every corner you can get an alcohol license and sell it and drive down the road drinking. But if you ask to build a cannabis place for the people who need it medically, you will get a no, and we're not sure. Because backward thinking will not move us to the 21st century. This is no longer an agricultural city. 500,000 strong, ready to go, 600,000 strong. Let's move forward. You want jobs? Let's invite these people to bring their ideas, to don't give us waste, ecological waste. Don't destroy our southwest, southeast areas. They bring in jobs with benefits. Do your research, Fresno. This is the time to step up. I am not here to waste your time. Thank you.
Mr. Wildstar?
He's right again. I mean, if I wasn't voting for myself, I'd probably vote for him. But he's absolutely right. With the cannabis industry, it is a budding industry that could be a very profitable cash crop for the city of Fresno. It's sad that with the state of California have already making, recreational marijuana, the city of Fresno has chosen to do, otherwise and opposite of that. So now that I guess the city council has approved us, we the people, of being able to do what we want to do and take care of ourselves and do what we want with our bodies, now we have the opportunity to invite those businesses here. So as mayor, what I would like to do is cut that bureaucratic red tape. It, again, is preventing these industries, these businesses from being able to be developed as quickly as they would. The business license fees, tens of thousands of dollars. Of course, it's not going to be economical for someone that is black or brown, people of color, to be able to benefit from an industry that has kept them suppressed this whole time. So on my website, wildstar2020.com, I actually talk about my Fresno First initiative and speak about building a public bank of Fresno. That would be a bank owned by we the people of Fresno, where these business owners in the cannabis industry would be able to do respectable banking with that Bank of Fresno. We the people of the community would benefit from that. If you want a small business loan, it's interest free and the big banks are turning you away, guess what? The People's Bank of Fresno will be there for you. So these are some of the forward-thinking ideas that I have for the city of Fresno, so I hope that you all will consider voting for me as mayor.
Reverend Harris? Of course. How will you create economic opportunity that provides family-sustaining wages for all residents and allow them to achieve upward financial mobility?
I believe in small businesses. I'm a small business myself. I know the importance of those who don't have. The project was in West Fresno. We just, within the last 5 years, received a middle school. And those of you know West Fresno, we pretty much the desert of Fresno. The tales of two cities. And we, some reason, just keep being a tale in this city for some reason. But there's great people in West Fresno. Gaston School was built. And what was interesting was that we thought that the contractor would come in and hire people around the community to bring jobs in and opportunity for those who may not have an opportunity. And then we come to find out that the prime contractor did not hire anyone in the community. So it's important that we deal with policy and contracts from the gate and let a developer know if you come into an area, you have a moral obligation to hire people in that area, around that community, so that they can have a living wage and provide for their families as well.
Mr. Jans?
You know, I mentioned at the outset that my wife is a small business owner, and she's a relatively new small business owner, and I watched her for the last couple of years start up her business and attempt to expand, and it was really hard to do. and it shouldn't be this hard. And if you've seen over the last couple of years, one of the biggest tax giveaways that we've seen here in the city of Fresno, I think close to $50 million to Amazon and Ulta, these corporations who don't pay any federal income tax. They haven't paid an income tax in years. And we still don't know how many local jobs they've created. And so we roll out the red carpet for these big corporations, but what about the small business owners who create 80% of the non-governmental workforce here in our community? And so we need to make sure that we are supportive of small businesses, especially in communities of color who have historically had so many struggles in terms of being able to generate and start their own businesses. And so as mayor, I'd create a special department to make sure that we target communities that have not had access to the resources and know-how to generate and start their own businesses. That's just so important to me. And then even beyond that, we need to make sure that we foster and cultivate policies in our community that would bring interest from outside. I was a big supporter of Measure P, an investment in our community that would have created very amazing safe spaces for our children to go to after school, really working to raise the standard of living here in our community. And so we need to promote environmentally friendly policies and programs like that, so that we can continue to attract businesses from the outside without having to give them multi-million-dollar tax breaks.
Mr. Jefferson.
Again, can everybody hear me? Again, starting from inside the city of Fresno, inside, with the people of Fresno, residents of Fresno, privatizing small businesses, enterprise practices, expediting services to these small businesses and entrepreneurs, waiving permit fees, whatever it takes to motivate, stimulate, inspire those that dare take the challenge of starting your own business. I'm several-time business owner, former truck driver, former welder, certified welder, arc, MIG, TIG welder. I found it hard to get work as a welder. There was only 2 people that hired me as a welder. It was Bush Rod's Barbecue, and it was William Riley in his backyard. Former hydraulics. He was the only person to give me a great opportunity. And I took that opportunity and I ran with it. I worked for him as long as I had to and sweated in his backyard several summers so that I can start my own business. He inspired me, and I want to inspire others as your next mayor. I want to push you out on that limb, and I'm so sick and tired of hearing people use their children as their excuse. Well, I wanted to do this, but then I had children. Or I wanted to do this, and well, what happened? Why aren't you doing that? Well, that's when I had my first child, and I'm done with that. I don't want to hear that anymore. I want to push you. I want you to push me, and I want you to challenge me to stand up for what I'm saying up here, to follow through, to bring this action that I'm talking about in the Jefferson initiatives. It's more than talk here. Privatized business enterprises, marijuana, it's multi-million dollars, billions of dollars, and hemp.
Thank you all for those answers. Our 5th question involves community justice, specifically policing. How will you embrace community-driven and data-supported methods of gun violence prevention? Mr. Wildstar.
Well, I don't want to use my child as an excuse, but my son is actually one of the main reasons why I'm running for mayor of Fresno. My wife and I, we moved here, and one of the first few things that I heard about in the news was the beating of a teenager, 17-year-old London Wallace, who was assaulted by Fresno PD. And then right after that, I heard about the shooting of 16-year-old Isaiah Murrieta Golding, a 16-year-old who was shot in the back of the head once by a Fresno PD officer. This is unacceptable. And our police officers, like Dyer, they arrest you and they throw you in jail. The prosecutors in the district attorney's office, like Jans, they keep you in jail. So you need a mayor that's going to stand up against these city officials that, again, prevent you from being able to live freely as you should be. And what I want to do is make sure every city official, since they are taking an oath to uphold the United States Constitution, do exactly that. There will be no ifs, ands, or buts about it with me as mayor, because I'll be doing exactly that. So I'll be making sure that every city official on my watch will be held accountable. There won't be any paid leave. You will be fired. Like Trump said, you're fired, okay? So if we get them on the job, and we're paying for these people to do their job with our taxes. Remember that. They're our employees. City officials, government officials are our employees. We, the people, are their manager. We're their boss. How many of you would be afraid of your boss? Okay? That's exactly what we're doing here. We're being afraid of our boss here. We need to fire them and hire a new boss, which is why I hope that you guys will vote Wildstar for mayor.
Reverend Harris.
Well, those of you who know me, that I've been advocating for independent police auditor for many, many years. Hello? Okay. Where's my time at this? Okay. Many of you know that I've advocated, was on the Central California Justice Committee, and we advocated for many, many years for an independent police auditor to have oversight over our police department. You know, police officers cannot be the judge, jury, and executor. They have to understand that they are servants in our community. I feel that it's wrong that a chief of police, when a shooting happens in our community, the first thing he does is he jumps on TV, contaminate an investigation. The chief of police under our administration will have his mouth shut and go through the process. I believe it's important right now that we understand that when we choose a chief of police in this community, that it has to be those engaged from the community. I'm talking about from the grassroots community, for those who have been involved, understanding what dealing with police are. It's important that the police officers understand that when you go into a community, you can't go in like RoboCop. You have to go in with dignity and respecting people. I'm always called a gang member because of the color of my skin. Every time I'm pulled over, that's not right. I'm always made to sit on the curb in my community. But when you go north of Shaw, you see folks pull over, they get to sit in their car. So I think it's a mindset right now from the mayor office to have to set a precedence in this community that we cannot treat people less than human like they're second-class citizens in this community. We're all human and taxpayers.
Mr. Jans.
You know, I was the first prosecutor in this county to come out in favor of decriminalizing marijuana. I was the first prosecutor in this county to come out in favor of bail reform. A model that we're using here in Fresno is a model that we're using all across the state now. I was the first prosecutor to come out in favor of restorative justice principles that are used in our juvenile court system now. And so I'm proud of my record as a prosecutor. And let me talk about a few of the cases that I've handled. Charlie Rogers, a black man in the Tower District, was attacked by a white supremacist with a knife. I prosecuted this person. That person belongs behind bars. He deserves to be in prison. I was a prosecutor in a case where Cecilia Hernandez was sitting in front of her front yard where she was shot 3 times, minding her own business, by a gang member. 3 days after she took the stand and testified very bravely, she was killed. The person who assaulted her deserves to be in prison. And so I'm proud of my record as a prosecutor. The vast majority of cases I handle have victims who are people of color and people of limited means from South Fresno. And so I'm their advocate. I'm out there fighting for them every single day, for truth, for justice, and for the Constitution. And so I'm very proud of my job as a prosecutor, what I've already done in terms of community-based policing. A plan that I'm supporting now that is going to be put out in the next couple of weeks is going to call for community-based policing in our cities, in our communities. We all know that we need it. And we need people in law enforcement to get behind this. And so I'm in a very unique position, being a public prosecutor, having to address these issues, having to work with Fresno PD and what they've done, and the leadership and the lack of leadership, and Jerry Dyer and $30 million worth of lawsuits over the last 18 years under his administration. And so just imagine all of the great things that we could have done with $30 million. We could have built schools, we could have built roads, we could have built parks. We can't afford another 4 years of Jerry Dyer.
Mr. Jefferson? Mr. Jefferson?
Will you briefly repeat the question?
Absolutely. How will you embrace community-driven and data-supported methods of gun violence prevention?
Gun violence prevention, absolutely. So again, along my field of expertise, I'm an ex-felon. I've said that already. I know about crooked cops and crooked operations. I know about trumped-up charges. I know about how it is to get pulled over for a traffic violation and end up with 13 charges, and to be sitting in the county jail and, sweating bullets because you can't afford an attorney. So now you're looking at the first deal they come at you with, and everyone's telling you, man, you better jump on it. You got a whole lot stacked against you, and when it's you sitting in a jail cell versus Fresno police officers, who are the people gonna stand more favorable with, So I mean, I know through and through again. I know what it's like to have that prosecutor come in, and seem like, he's making you such a great deal because he says, hey, I'm going to throw you this offer. It's the word I'm looking for is they put you under so much pressure. They put you under so much pressure and undue stress to where you're ready for any easiest way out possible. And so I know about the criminal justice system and the prosecution system, through and through again. I've filed several appeals, from both sides. I've had appeals in the federal Eastern District Court, which now got us able to take our service dogs out as of 2015, and to public places now, again, neighborhood policing, neighborhood watch programs, community organized unification, organized events, things like this is what prevents crime. Thank you.
Mr. Renteria? No problem. How will you embrace community-driven and data-supported methods of gun violence prevention?
From each other or from Fresno PD? How do we prevent it? The process has already started. We need a new chief, right? We need somebody who can stand up to a chief, right? The mayor has the highest and most respectable position above the city police department. The chief will not do anything under my leadership that hurts any of the citizens of Fresno. As mayor, you will not pull your weapon out on a citizen until there's been a negotiator brought in. You will not enter a home as your mayor. You will not be intimidated and then be shot because the officers entered your residence and then he was in fear of your life because you want to chase his out of the house and you die for it. Tragedy happened. 6-month transfer from Oakland PD, became a Fresno police officer and shot a woman in her home on the southwest side of Fresno. And he feared for his life because he was from Oakland. I don't know if anybody from Oakland would ever fear for their life. But you are not going to kill Fresno citizens and not get away, and you will not get away. If you do, you pull your weapon, you will face a judge just like anybody else. A public person out here who pulls a gun, they go to jail. If you pull a weapon on a citizen and that citizen dies because of it, you will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. That's the way it's going to run from City Hall, and no longer will the chief of police announce the tragedies that happen in the city. It will be announced by the mayor so it can be confronted by that mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question involves immigration. Fresno has a long history of welcoming refugee communities. Over the past 100 years, this has included Armenian, Hmong, and Syrian refugees who have fled war and violence. These families now proudly call Fresno their home. Due to recent presidential executive orders working to reduce refugee resettlement, it is important for local governments to give consent to continue refugee resettlement in their cities. What are your thoughts? Reverend Harris.
Well, they're not welcome here. I believe that we're a family. I stand with them. It's important that we educate our community in regards to this president we have, Trump, who just want to deport everyone every time he turn around. So from my perspective of the mayorship, I would just be very open and honest that, they're not welcome here. You just can't come into our community, stripping families, sending parents, arresting them and putting them in concentration camps. It's just something that is just unhuman. We have lost the value of being human in America now. I don't even understand what is a illegal alien. These titles and different things that's been placed on us, even African Americans, we're human beings. We're brothers and sisters. And so you just can't come into Fresno and strip families.
Mr. Jans?
Yeah, as mayor, I would instruct my police chief not to do federal immigration policy. I would instruct them not to work with ICE. My parents were both my parents were immigrants to this country, and I value so much the value of immigration. Jerry Dyer's been very friendly when it comes to Donald Trump. He's refused to criticize him. He's gone as far as to say that Fresno won't be a sanctuary city. And so the message that you're sending there, especially to our immigrant community, is that nobody here is going to be safe. You're not going to be safe from an illegal deportation. You're not going to be safe from your children being ripped apart from you and your family and being put in cages on the southern border. And so we need to make absolutely clear, as mayor, as the moral leader of this city, that we won't engage in Donald Trump's divisive policies, the policies that have split our country in half right now as we speak. And so we need to make sure that we have a mayor that's going to stand up to Donald Trump. We need a mayor that's going to do the right thing. And the right thing is to make sure that people who are law-abiding, who are paying taxes, many of whom who've served in our armed forces, who've come to our country by no fault of their own, that they're safe here. And they're safe, and we're not going to play any part of Donald Trump's divisiveness.
Mr. Jefferson?
That's one thing I can say is this country is built about amongst immigrants. We've all immigrated from somewhere to be here. Excuse me? Okay, well, I appreciate that correction. Yes, I do stand corrected. Yeah, some of us are native to this land as well, absolutely. So this country again is made up of immigrants. This is a mixing pot after all. So we welcome everybody here in the country of America, especially Fresno as a sanctuary city. So like I said before, a lot of people find Fresno very friendly. People come here to the city of Fresno because it's an easygoing place. I love that about Fresno, and that's why I still stay here. After all being all over the country, I find Fresno home. Born here, raised in Southwest Fresno for the majority part of my life. I love, our strong Southwest, figures. I stayed in North Fresno, Field Garden Loop, so I know about Northern Fresno, and I can honestly admit that I haven't ever, until recently in my life, felt like, there's any kind of racial ties or stigmas against me until more recent days of my life. But growing up in Northwest Fresno and East Fresno, I mean, it's like I was blind, or I didn't feel it until today, and I wish I could go back to the way it was when I was growing up, me not seeing this, me not realizing these things. And our immigrants should feel comfortable here, and as your next mayor, I would make them feel safe, I would make them feel welcome, I support my Muslim community as I am Muslim, and all others.
Thank you. Mr. Renteria? Of course. What are your thoughts about local governments giving consent to continue refugee resettlement in their cities?
Mayor of Fresno welcomes everybody. This wasn't an issue till 2016. We never had those issues before. Fresno is diverse with beautiful people from all different backgrounds. There's nobody better than anybody else. I don't care how much money you make or how little money you make. We're all together, and we do it together as one. Thank you. I'm trying to talk as loud as I can. I hope you can hear louder.
Does the other mic, Mr. Jefferson, does the other mic work better?
We're one. I've been around a long time. We're good people. We can make this work. Let's quit pointing fingers and blaming everybody that we do not agree with. I don't agree with a lot of things, but that doesn't keep me from progressing forward. I didn't like my golf game when it was 90, but I liked it when it was 75. But the thing about our lives is there's been so much division at City Hall, so much division within our community that it's time to have a 2020 vision for a better Fresno. It's time to quit snobbing each other and saying these people are bad. They're not bad. They're your neighbors. So what if they disagree? Your vote is important. Your choices you make are very important. Make the choices that move Fresno forward. This is my third time. I don't know if I'm coming back. Make your right choices. You've heard me speak 3 times, 3 different campaigns. Not all the time, but you have. Thank you.
Mr. Wildstar.
Check, is that? Are you guys able to hear me in the back clearly? No? How about that one? Is that better? Yeah? All right. Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Absolutely. What are your thoughts about local governments giving consent to continue refugee resettlement in their cities?
Absolutely. Well, as an African descendant of slavery here in America, the roots that my family have, I've done a genealogy test, goes back 300 to 500 years. So speaking as an authority in the room on what happens with our land, this land is made for you and me. As the song, this land is your land, this land is my land says. And we need to start acting on that sentiment as Americans. This country was built as a free man's land for everyone and anyone to migrate to. So I would definitely be welcoming of those best and brightest immigrants from all over the world to come here to Fresno to help contribute to our local economy, because that's exactly what the immigrant population does. They're hardworking people just like each and every one of us. So if they're paying taxes and they're contributing members of society, peaceful members of society, they should be respected as such. And I'm a firm believer that if you're here in America and you're doing exactly that, you're an American. And those people that do have an argument on the other side about the immigration population here causing a disturbance to American culture, I would say look at the roots of America. It's made up of everyone, every myriad from every walk of life. So what we need to be doing again is, if you have a problem with the immigrants here, focus on the key issues. And what I found that to be is more so people, I guess, looked at as being threatening more than others. And we shouldn't be looking at any specific group that way and racially profiling one group over another. So my job as mayor would be to protect all residents of Fresno, no matter what your ethnicity may be, no matter what your sexual preference may be. And that's exactly what I'll be doing.
Okay, now we have the opportunity to have the candidates answer some of your questions. So the first one, we're going to start with Mr. Jans. This community member said they live in the Lowell community area where the life expectancy is 70.4 years. California's average is 80.9 years. Much of North Fresno is above this average, and in some places is as high as 85.5 years. As mayor, what would you do to address this obvious disparity in quality of life? And candidates have 1 minute to answer these questions.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think there was an article out the other day too that said that life expectancy for children being born in Fresno now is one of the lowest in any part of the country, and that is just so much more meaningful to me that that I have a child of my own now, and so I understand how important this issue is, and this is why I'm a big supporter of the Drive Initiative. And if you don't know what the Drive Initiative is, it's a roadmap as to where we need to go as a community, and a large cross-section of our communities come together to get behind this program. The governor has even recognized it as one of the reasons why he's spending so much money here in the Central Valley, and so we need to continue to be good partners with Sacramento and in Washington too, to make sure that we get dollars to come here to the Central Valley, a place that has historically been ignored, and we need a mayor that's going to fight tooth and nail for that.
Mr. Jefferson?
Excuse me, the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question was about differences in life expectancy in different areas of Fresno. What would you do to address this obvious disparity in quality of life?
Absolutely. Again, there's a whole lot of reasons for this. I mean, there's power lines going down one of my old neighborhoods that's obviously had some impairment on us growing up. There's Southwest Fresno, the factories like one of the candidates brought forth. There's a lot of things that are plaguing our city, besides just being in the valley alone, that I'm looking forward to addressing in the Jefferson Initiatives once again. If we look forward to the federal government, doing everything for us, and we're looking forward to the state governor doing everything for us, we have to take the first steps ourselves. The city of Fresno has to be proactively involved and engaged in making change happen here. Like I said in the beginning, it's all about the inside. It's about right here in Fresno right now, and then there's always the federal and the state that kicks in later.
Mr. Renteria?
The question is, how would I improve the quality of life in Fresno as mayor? Am I correct on that question? The quality of life is an individual decision. I can't tell you not to buy big gulps and 10 pizzas at the corner. You want to live longer? Correct your diet. If you're a smoker, stop smoking. I'm not a doctor. But I want to live a good life and a long life. That's why I ride a bike. That's why I let transportation, the bus system, handle all my yelling and screaming at the next driver while I put my earbuds on. You want to live a long life? Adjust your own life. Quit complaining. High blood pressure will not survive in your blood system if you're a complainer. Bottom line is, extend your hand, say hello to the person next to you and say, we're Fresno and we're not going to be compared to any other city. I'm tired of every city getting the compliments. In today's paper, one of the worst places to raise your children.
Thank you.
I have to answer the question.
Mr. Wildstar.
All right. So I think Mr. Renteria is correct again. The improvement of the quality of life starts first with the individual. So we as individuals must start being responsible for ourselves. So it starts first with proper diet. I drink ocean water. Why? Because the majority of the water that you're drinking is actually not water. It's water that's been watered down. Look at what happened with Niagara. They were discovered to have poisoned our water with arsenic. So companies such as that need to be banned from being here and conducting any business. So I'm actually glad that Jans brought up the Drive initiative, because that's actually being spearheaded by Ashley Swearingen, the former mayor of Fresno, and she is a Republican, and you have Democrats working together to take your money, your tax dollars. The governor gave Ashley Swearingen and the Drive initiative $11 million of your tax dollars. So if we want to end that crony capitalism, you need a mayor that's going to stand up for we the people. And that's me.
Reverend Harris. Reverend Harris.
Just today, West Fresno has been advocating to get Darling Enterprise out of our community. They reneged on the deal. So now Darling is still in our community. And the reason I'm saying this is because there's a process that's supposed to happen called an environmental impact report. The city of Fresno would not make them do an get a CUP, because it would show that they are operating illegally. So there's businesses in our community right now that's making our air bad each and every day that we wake up in the morning. And so we have to have a strong agency that's going to hold these companies accountable in our community and fine them or sue them. And the reason why the city of Fresno do not want to remove Darling, because they don't want to be sued, but yet the good people in West Fresno is dying each and every day.
The next question from audience member is, as mayor, what are you willing to do to house domestic violence victims who are seeking help when they have no shelter available? Mr. Jefferson.
Absolutely. So again, I think that's right in my arena of things, housing, people placement, placing people, in situations like, I think everybody can hear me, right? No? Can everybody hear me now? Okay, thank you. I think that the number one way I would address that is it would have to be, there needs to be a place where we can make people feel welcome and comfortable and not turn people away so quickly based on any specific criteria in their case or in their assessment process, because there is places that do turn people away, even though there is Marjorie Mason and the Naomi's House and the Fresno Rescue Mission that do accept people of this background, and I mean I've known people personally that had issues with finding placement based on.
Mr. Renteria? Absolutely. What are you willing to do as mayor to house domestic violence victims who are seeking help when no shelter is available to them?
Domestic violence. That goes both ways. It could be a male and a female. Violence goes both ways. What I do as mayor, I'd work with the county and find out if we can get all the programs we can to help. I'm not familiar with all the domestic violence programs that are available. But as a mayor, the people who are experiencing that, I'd ask them to bring their smartest, most intelligent, the most loving people with empathy, that have empathy in their life, to approach me. We'll do this together. I don't have an answer for everything, but I know there's people in this room that have those answers for me, that they can bend my ear, and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Wildstar?
I would say one of the things about the domestic violence situation is it's a bit two-sided. On one side, you have the victims, those that, of course, have dealt with some violent issue, and I think there should be more programs that are available to them that are provided by people of the community. How many failed government programs have we seen? So I definitely think more resources need to be given to nonprofit organizations, churches, people of the community that would like to provide that on assistance. On the flip side, we have the criminal justice reform. You have men and women who have been criminalized because they have either had an argument with a significant other, or for whatever reason may have been drugged through the criminal justice system and now have a domestic violence charge on their record. So there needs to be criminal justice reform as well. So as mayor, that's exactly what I'd be doing, is focusing on tackling the issues from both sides.
Reverend Harris?
You know, as a pastor, I see this each and every day in our community. I feel that we have a lot of great institutions here in our community for its churches, social services. I believe it needs to be a strategic, intentional, strong program put together, starting from the homes, the schools, the PTA at schools. I also feel that, as someone said, it's two sides to a story. But at the end of the day, I strongly believe that our religious institutions can be a mediator with the right resources in our community, so that they do not end up in jail, do not end up in a county jail, or even a police officer called out. So learning how to de-escalate, learning how to do restorative justice is something that I'm really big on.
Mr. Jans?
This is another example of how we already have good people in the community that are doing this work. Des Martinez is here tonight. She's an example of that, and an advocate for women that are exactly in this situation. But that is not enough. You know, historically, our approach has been to leave this up to the nonprofit and private sectors to sort of take care of this situation. And we still have a problem. And we need to make sure that local government, especially the city, takes a step in the right direction to support some of these initiatives that are already going on. And so for me, that would be a priority. And we need to also make sure that these cases are properly prosecuted. We have so many victims of domestic violence that go unheard, but we just need to do a better job in terms of making sure that these men and women who are victims have a safe space to come and share their stories.
The next question, we'll start with Mr. Renteria. With air quality issues that we have in Fresno, what do you plan to do to get people out of their cars and using public transit? And would you be willing to use public transit yourself as an example?
Wrong question for the wrong guy. Ask these guys. That's funny. Hate to say it, but that's a funny question. I've been doing this for a long time. This ain't new to me. Riding a bike is an enjoyable thing to do. The only problem we have is the drivers. They'll hit you in a second and drive away where we're going to stop at. You want to learn to cut down on pollution, get a bike. Learn the bus schedule, even though it could be off schedule. Learn it anyway. We'll improve it. I was a bus driver. It was efficient when I was there. I was on the extra board. I did the extra work to get the people from the north to downtown Fresno. You want a leader who knows about pollution and reduction and getting people out of their cars. You're looking at him. You'll find my bike at the bike rack at City Hall, providing it isn't stolen. Thank you.
Mr. Wildstar?
Well, I'm a long-time rider of public transportation, and I love riding my bike. I actually promote more public transportation other than using your car. And again, the way that I would like to provide more incentive for people to use public transportation is provide more high technology transportation or modes of transportation, like a maglev system, like a hyperloop, like a high-speed rail. So I definitely think, again, these type of businesses would promote people to want to use public transportation and create more bike lanes in the city, more sidewalks. This definitely needs to be addressed as well. And as the next mayor of the city, that's exactly what I'll be doing on my website, wildstar2020.com. I'll talk more about how exactly I would like to beautify the city, and I encourage you to visit my website to find out more.
Reverend Harris?
I think the question was, will I ride the bus?
That was the gist of it, yes.
Yes, I would ride the bus. I think that it's important to make things fun. I think it's important to find a system, find some incentives, even starting in the schools, going from the schools to the middle school to high school, as well as taking it home on an educational base so that we can all understand why it's important to ride the bus. What are we really doing when we ride the bus versus drive our cars? And so, yes, it's something that being a mayor, that I would push incentives from the mayor's seat.
You know, I think Reverend Harris is spot on this in his response. We need to change the culture at an earlier age, and making sure that as young people they understand the value of mass transportation. We are on the verge of becoming a metropolis, so we have to get there. I was at a forum earlier this week at Fresno City College, and I found out that they're eliminating the paid bus passes for the students that go there. And so I think this is a step in the wrong direction. And as mayor, I'd step in and make sure that that is fully funded. But again, it's going to be a challenge to change the culture because we all love our cars. But I'm willing to lead by example to answer the question. Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
We can start by answering the question. I'll start by answering the question myself first. I do actually prefer riding my skateboard. I have a skateboard. I have trained service hounds that can pull me all over Fresno, and they enjoy doing it. You know, and as well, thanks to the lawsuits, Federal Eastern District, I can now even take my service hounds and my skateboard on the bus with me. And my skateboard is very friendly and easy to accessible. You know, I mean, I can carry it in the shopping center with me and everywhere I go. It's very few places that deny me with my skateboard. I like to promote that. The Jefferson Incentives talk about how we can promote things like that by giving special exemptions and accommodating people that go through alternate transportation methods, such as riding the bus, riding a bicycle, or a skateboard, where we would promote it by giving skateboards or giving bicycles and giving bus passes, as opposed to taking bus passes away from our students. Of all people, we shouldn't take bus passes from students, you know.
Okay, and the last question I've selected in the spirit of everyone who stayed till almost the end, at almost 8 o'clock in the evening. What are your plans to change the time of council meetings? The morning meetings often prevent citizens who work during that time from attending and can also prevent the citizenry from knowing what's going on. So we'll start with Mr. Wildstar. Yes.
Well, I definitely think that time needs to be changed. Like she said, those meetings are held at times when most people are at work or at school. So I would like to actually implement the opportunity for people of the public to join in on the city council meetings online. That way you can, of course, be there in attendance from your own home. I also think these meetings should be pushed more towards the evening. Since these are our paid employees, we should make sure that the times that they're accessible are most advantageous for us. So I would definitely take into consideration the shift of time from the community as to what would be most beneficial to you.
Reverend Harris. Oh, we're going with Reverend Harris first, and then we'll make our way back, of course.
Great question. It's been hard for me to get to city council. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, all right. So it's hard for me to get to city council meetings myself because I work a full-time job. Because we're public servants here, there's 7 days in a week. I think we should move it to Saturday so everyone can have an opportunity to come to the city council meeting.
Mr. Jans?
Yeah, I'm also one of those people that can't go to the meetings because I work during the day, so I'd be in favor of moving it to the evenings.
Mr. Jefferson?
Well, I'm a regular participant. You know, I have been before the campaign, at least. Can everyone hear me? So, yes, I'm in favor of not only addressing that issue with people making it to council meetings, whether it be on a weekend or whether it be an evening time, but it needs to also make sure that it's broadcast via public radio broadcast so that people can listen and tune in wherever they are, you know. Yeah, also, our community would love to see our city council members literally show up in our neighborhoods to address the community and some of our concerns. That would be one awesome thing, because otherwise, you're never going to really have their attention.
Mr. Rentieri, the question was, do you have any plans to change the morning times of the council meetings to allow more people to attend?
You're just waking up, right? So nobody's really thinking clear at 9 in the morning after you never know what happened the night before. So the bottom line is, I would agree that it has to be done at a time that's convenient for the people who pay your check. So I would 100% agree that it needs to be at a later time. I also would say that the council members, if you're listening, you need to get down from the dais or wherever you sit, and when we have an intermission, don't go in another room. Get in the crowd. Extend your hand. Please quit walking out of council chambers when somebody is addressing the chamber, because we don't want you to say, I didn't hear it or I'm not voting on it. We need a council that is responsible, that listens without chit-chatting back and forth and arguing while somebody is making a direct question to the council. Thank you.
So at this time, I would like to invite all of the candidates to give a 1-minute closing statement. And Reverend Harris, we'll start with you.
Again, thank you for having me here today. The reason I'm running for mayor is because I love people, and I want to see people have the quality of life here in Fresno, which has not happened. I'm concerned about our homeless community. I want to make sure that we end homelessness here in Fresno. I want to make sure that we have a quality education system, make sure we have a first-class police department that's transparent in our community, that we can be a model for the entire United States of America. And so please vote for me, and we'll see everybody on March 3rd.
Thank you, Reverend Harris. Mr. Jans.
Yeah, thank you for everyone for showing up tonight. Thank you to the other candidates. It's always good to have these forums because, you know, not all of us have answers to all of the questions, and it's just so good to see such a diverse group of people here to share their ideas and their visions for our community. And you know, I'm really disappointed in a certain other candidate who didn't attend today. Somebody who's seeking to you know, his campaign is about one Fresno, and he doesn't show up to listen to us talk and to hear about our issues, and so that is very disappointing. But let me tell you something. I'm in this race because I think that Fresno needs change, and we are right on the cusp of it. We, for the first time now, have a city council that's ready to work with a mayor that's progressive and forward-thinking. And so all they need right now is a partner in the mayor's office that's going to get the job done. And so I'm so proud to have the endorsement of the Fresno Bee, an institution that's been in this community for a very long time. They've endorsed me because they know that I'm the candidate in this race that could beat Jerry Dyer and bring about much-needed change to our community. And so I hope to have your vote on March 3rd. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jefferson. Mr. Jefferson.
Thank you all again for having me here and hearing my platform and my reason for running. Again, as a humanitarian, founder and CEO of an organization that's organized with the homeless community, over 400 plus members and growing every day, that are now, most of them are now registered voters. So they helped me get my name on the ballot. So, you know, and Southwest Fresno, because I feel like, you know, their voices need to be heard and their votes do count. Ex-felons, you know, I mean, get out there and register to vote. You know, your vote counts. Otherwise, you know, you let the other people just walk right into the office, you know. Get out there, register, and vote. I'm about empowerment and housing. Housing for all, equally, equality, justice, and empowerment versus just employment. It's one thing to be employed and have no empowerment, but it's one thing to be empowered and be able to turn around and empower someone else. Thank you.
Mr. Renteria. Yes, just a closing statement. 1 minute. Thank you.
I don't need a mic, huh? Thank you. Let's see. My name is sitting down. Everybody's been sitting down. We need to stretch once in a while. My name is Richard B. Renteria. I'll keep it simple. We can do better. Like I said, no more pointing fingers. No more blaming the other side. The other side won't work with us if we're blaming them, and they won't work with us, or if they're blaming, you know, vice versa. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, if you could be blind and just heard the voices and didn't see the faces or the color of their skin, would you make the right decision? Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles make beautiful music without seeing. Put your blinders on, Fresno. It's time to move forward to the 21st century. You need a leader? Richard B. Renteria, the B is for Briano. I've got Aztec warrior in my blood. So I'm native also. I'm not a Mexico and California, Arizona, Nevada, we're all one. We don't need walls, we need hugs. Thank you.
And Mr. Wildstar.
Well, first and foremost, you guys. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hear me in the back? Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to stay seated if you guys don't mind. I have a newborn who keeps me up at all hours of the night, so I am using this as a reprieve to rest. But thank you again for all being here and actually hearing out all of the candidates, especially myself, because I'm a third-party candidate. I've been running a highly competitive campaign on my own. I put $5,000 of my own funding into my campaign to do what's necessary, and that's to make sure that I'm on the ballot. I've been ignored by Fresno B and mainstream media outlets because I don't have enough money. So if you want to continue to support the old establishment where money rules politics and there's money over people, profits over people, then you'll continue to vote Dyer or Jans. Because a vote for either one of them is a vote for the old establishment. So if you want something different, someone new, someone with a fresh idea, if you really want change, then you will vote Wildstar for mayor. Please visit my website, wildstar2020.com, and find out more about what I would like to do to serve you.
And at this time, I would like us all to thank all of the candidates for their time and this important discussion, and thank you all for coming and listening to this important discussion and vote. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening and a safe trip home.